Sam Sulik, Alex Eubank, Greg Doucette, Mike Israetel, Athlete X, the Trend Twins. These are all fitness influencers who have major platforms to talk about fitness, to inspire others, to help other people. But are they actually good? Are they actually helping? I'm going to discuss this today. At the end, I'm going to give you my top 3 influencers for you to follow to get good vetted information. Now, of course, I put myself in this category. I give you the best that I possibly can. I have an undergraduate. I have a master's degree in the health and exercise space. That is one of the things that you should look for, but one of many and certainly not a prerequisite. So let's dive into this. Now, every day we're scrolling through Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and we're listening to these people with huge platforms. And often the size of the platform tends to dictate how much weight we put in their word, but often it's totally unlinked. Now, I have it on good authority that many of the natural fitness influencers are not natural at all. I have firsthand accounts of these people asking for things that make them not natural. And then they'll put out these physiques, these workouts to say that this is how I get this is how I look this way. Some of the most famous examples of this are girls who tend to have more fat stored in their butt. They'll put out a booty routine. Girls will assume that this is going to make them look the same. Of course, that's not true. We also have genetic freaks, where say someone like Larry Wheels. He is massive. He is shredded. I could never get that way. No matter how I trained, no matter how much I dieted, I would have a very different look. I might look more like Branch Warren than like Larry Wheels, regardless of how much I would like to be more aesthetic. Same thing would happen with Ulysses or Simeon Panda, or everyone's favorite historic icon of aesthetics, Ziz. I think a lot of us wanted to look like Ziz when we were 15. Let's dive into some of the positives first, because ultimately this is a good thing. And I believe many people start from a really good place. The positive is that millions of people and tens of millions of people are getting exposed to exercise related content on a regular basis. I always say there are many ways to get things done, many ways to skin the cat. So if you're following a program by someone who might not be as honest as they could be, ultimately, you're still getting into the gym and you're still presumably working relatively hard, and this can result in good gains. In fact, it will result in good gains up to a certain point. We also have people creating interest for non-fitness, non-exercise related people. When drama comes about, it's going to draw other people into the fitness world. Now, hopefully this is for good reasons and inspiring, but like we saw with Jeff Nippard and Mike Van Wyck, it can also be because of controversy and make people think things about the gym that certainly aren't true. They also give tips and how to do exercises. Someone like Jeff Nippard is phenomenal for this, where he will give precise explanations of different movements for different workouts and how it's going to work muscles differently. And I think this is a phenomenal use of a platform. We have tips on how to structure your workouts, on what is safe and what is not safe. We have rehabilitation tips like we get from Squat University. And these are all fantastic. Now, this is where the positives start to end. Normalizing fitness, inspiring people to move, creating structure, talking about the mental health side of lifting, it's all well and good. But the negatives begin when you have to speak with a broad stroke. And I'm going to take a level of accountability here. I have often come across people who will listen to what I say on YouTube and then will buy a program from me. And sometimes what I say on YouTube isn't the same as what is in the program. Now, if you're interested in being coached by me, link to the programs is down in the description. I would love to have you on the team and to help you out. Now, an example of this is I put a video out saying the 5 worst exercises for building strength. Then I have a strength building program, and in both of those, I have dumbbell bench press. Now, dumbbell bench press, I believe, is not the best exercise you could use for gaining strength, but I have it in my strength building program. Naturally, this could lead to the question, well, why? And when you're painting things with a broad brush, like worst exercises to get strong, you're not considering every variable within a program. For example, it might be a bad exercise to get strong by itself, but it might be a great exercise as an accessory to protect the nervous system, to build some muscle, to create some stability. And we're working on other qualities rather than just strength. In a pure strength building program, you cannot have every exercise, rep, and set dedicated strictly towards getting strong, or you're going to leave yourself predisposed for injury, muscle imbalances, and ultimately a lack of progress. Now, another really unfortunate thing when it comes to fitness influencers is setting unrealistic standards. You are not going to be able to lift as much as me. Or whoever you are watching, it is extremely unlikely that's going to be the case. And it's not because of your work ethic. It's not because of bit of information that I know that you don't know. It's because we don't have the same genetics, and I am incredibly blessed. And Jeff Seed is incredibly blessed with his genetics. So is Eddie Hall. So is Hafthor Bjornsson. But we can easily incorrectly make the jump from giving advice to say, this is how I do something, and it being interpreted as, if you do this, you will also be this. And I do this in the most ethical way I can and be very clear that this is not a prescription to become the world's strongest man, but it's a prescription to become the strongest version of yourself. I think oftentimes we can get muddled in the fitness influencer world in being very clear that you are not going to get the same results as a fitness influencer just because you're doing the same things that they're doing. We also have the world of Photoshop and perfect lighting and perfect setups. And this now creates an image and an aesthetic that just isn't true on a day-to-day basis. I've met many of these people in person, and often you are sort of underwhelmed by what you see because they aren't pumped up, oiled up with the perfect lighting. It's a classic. You look at yourself in the bathroom mirror at 2 a.m. and you feel like you are an absolute rock star. You look at yourself after dinner and things just aren't the same. A lot of posing can go into this as well, and the female side is particularly famous for unique poses. And there is an uprising now to become more honest and post sort of a posed, unposed, more relatable type filter or relatable type side-by-side, which I think is a really good step forward to curb the unrealistic standards. Now, one other thing we have is just simple bad advice. Just because someone has a good physique or is very strong, it doesn't mean they know what they're doing in any capacity. There are strength athletes who don't follow a program. There are strength athletes who have coaches to coach them to be strong, but they themselves know very little about getting strong in the first place. Same thing would apply to bodybuilders. Now, the genetic components cannot be ignored, and the results can only be relative to what your upper limit of genetic capacity might be. If my genetic capacity meant that I could deadlift 1,100 pounds, there are many ways that I could get to 1,000 pounds, and I might be following a good program, I might not, but regardless, you see me deadlift 1,000, I put a program out there, and you believe that this is something that you should do as well. Last problem is the fake natty issue. And this is a massive problem in the fitness industry. And like I said before, I have firsthand accounts of many of these people who are natty, but definitely not based on firsthand accounts. And not only fake natty, but also fake business, fake influencers, fake lifestyle, fake bodies, Photoshop, just a complete lack of authenticity. One thing I pride myself on is that when I meet up with someone as an influencer, or I have dinner with my wife and my friends, or I'm in my office, I'm basically the same guy the whole time. I don't really have the energy to put on some fake influencer filter for you to make myself seem like I eat more than I do, or I train more than I do, or I do more whatever it may be, recovery than I do. And to me, authenticity is something that is desperately needed in the fitness world at the moment. And it's probably the massive number one problem in the industry. Now, given things are not even helpful or not even true sometimes, it can be difficult for the layperson, you guys, to identify who might be good and who might not be good. So let's talk about red flags. How to identify someone who may or may not know what they're talking about, but certainly you can't just blanket trust. The first is no credentials. And I'm going to say no credentials in either experience or in education. Those are the two ways that you can get to the end goal. And ultimately, you should look for people with both a level of education and a level of experience. This doesn't need to be formal education or higher degrees, but it does need to be someone who has clearly read books or competed in a bodybuilding show or done strongman competitions. If you're taking advice from someone, they have to have tried to do that before to some extent. Now, of course, we have examples like Scotty Bowman, the best hockey coach of all time, who couldn't skate. These are exceptions to the rule, and in the fitness influencer world, it is rarely the case. If all you see in someone is that they have a good physique, you cannot trust that they know what they're talking about. There are many different substances that you could take that you just generally work hard and you look really good, and then you could say that you know, and you seem like you know, you look like you know, but you don't. So we should be looking for a bodybuilding competitor, a strongman competitor, someone with a university degree, someone who clearly speaks about research and books and other sources of information other than just their personal experience, because ultimately personal experience and anecdotes are some of the most useless things to rely on. Next up is exaggerated claims. If you're hearing anything like lose 30 pounds in 30 days or any sort of crash anything, how to gain X number of pounds of X in X time frame, unless it's a clickbait YouTube video, which is a totally separate conversation, you should not be listening to someone who promises a lot more than they can deliver or a lot more than they have experienced themselves in coaching other people doing similar things. There are really standardized measures by which we can get stronger, we can get more muscular, we can get leaner. And boiled down simply, someone who's experienced in strength training over a 12-week block, you can expect a strength increase anywhere from 5 to 10% if you've been trained for 2 to 3 years regularly. In terms of building muscle, any more than 1 pound a week is going to be putting on a lot of body fat, and losing weight, losing any more than 1 pound a week is going to result in quite a bit of muscle loss. Of course, there are nuances to this, and how large you are in the first place is a big determinant, but those are good guidelines to stick by. And ultimately, there's no level of influence or knowledge that is going to have you outlearn or outknow the current body of evidence. Lastly is constant promotion. This is a very lucrative world, and I benefit from this as well. But if someone seems like they're doing everything they can just to put forward their products, it's usually going to be nefarious. Now, a good example of this is Greg Doucette. Greg is constantly talking about his Turk builder, constantly talking about his cookbook. Now, is this an example of someone who is nefarious? No, because his cookbook is his cookbook and his supplement is his supplement. But if these were workout programs that every time he was doing a chest exercise, he's selling his chest program, it can be a red flag. Certainly not a write-off. I sell my programs quite often on my videos, but it's related to the thing that I'm doing, and I'm becoming or trying to become the #1 strongman in the world. In that case, you have to use a level of judgment. But if we have a combination of these three, no credentials, exaggerated claims, and constantly promoting things, you can almost guarantee that that person is not someone that you should trust and rely on. The best solution that I can give is to find some people that you trust that fulfill these three criteria: educated or experienced, no sense of exaggerated claims, and you genuinely believe what they say. You do not feel as though they are over-promising. And number three, they are only promoting things that are going to add value to you. Oftentimes, every reputable person that I know offers free things as well, because if it's coming from a good place to try to help the community, it often is information can come for free, like on YouTube, like on free PDFs. I have those as well, janetmoosecoaching.com. Now, I'm going to give you my top 3 influencers that I trust for good information. Of course, I trust myself for good information, but outside of me, here are 3 people you should go check out if you're looking to get fitness-related content. Number 1 is Mike Israetel through Renaissance Periodization. He is the smartest guy when it comes to building muscle and bodybuilding. He will do influencer stuff. He will critique workouts, and he has a massive YouTube following for it. But I've never heard Mike say something that is categorically untrue, that isn't backed by evidence. He is really an impossible guy to argue with because he's speaking on behalf of the current literature, in which case this is definitely someone to listen to. Next up is Jeff Nippard. Jeff really specializes in how to get the most from every exercise, small technique changes and cues. I believe these things are slightly less important than getting in and working hard, but still really, really interesting if you're looking to get every little bit from your workout. Really smart guy and puts a huge amount of effort into every video. Jeff is a really good guy to go to and to follow. And lastly is Squat University, Aaron Horschick. He is a friend of mine. He puts out really good information. Sometimes it is very difficult to paint one injury with a broad stroke and give advice to everyone, and this is probably the only pitfall, but he never says anything that is categorically untrue, never intentionally misleading, never pushing anything for his own agenda. So he absolutely gets my recommendation as well. Now, I would love your take on fitness influencers. Go ahead, pop down in the comments your general thoughts around them. I post every single day. Maybe that makes me an influencer. Maybe that makes me a strongman. Maybe it makes me a YouTuber. Whatever it makes me to you, I hope that you're enjoying it and you're gathering something, becoming stronger in body and in mind. My goal is to get as many people moving as possible in a healthy way. And part of that is through my programs linked in the description and through my clothing through LHBK. They're my plugs. Hate me for it. Love me for it. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're posting every single day. As per usual, lift heavy, be kind, and we'll catch you tomorrow.